Welcome to our Leaders in Housing Counseling call. Glad to have you all there. Looks like we have a great turnout and we have a crowded agenda, so we're going to dive right in. Things are slowly moving forward on federal funding, so interesting stuff, and Matthew will run through it. I'll do a quick piece on the Brian Montgomery nomination. Thanks for all the work people are doing on both issues. This is very, very helpful. We had a great event in Tampa 2 weekends ago, and we'll have Ellie and Sylvia give kind of what we learned from this. It's all a learning process, and we'll have more coming up in the year. So really kind of honing in and improving on our outreach strategies to reach underserved borrowers. So all very helpful stuff. And we'll have our friends from Northwest Side Housing, James Ruddock and Sean Washington, to talk about their new client management system, the CRM that they have available. I'm going to just answer a couple quick questions on that we keep getting about the credit report discount at the end, and we'll do more work on this with Credco in calls coming up. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the joint and HRC part of the call. So with that, let's dive right in. So, federal funding.
All right, thank you. Yep, so I'm going to run through FY 2018 with updates and then a brief update on FY 2019. So for FY 2018, we are expecting, so folks will remember the most current CR that was reached kind of in conjunction with having lifted the spending caps runs through March 23rd, which is a week from tomorrow. They've been negotiating, the last 5 or so weeks, trying to hammer out an omnibus, which is basically just a single bill that includes all of the 12 appropriations subcommittee bills. There had been rumors that the omnibus text would be out this week. Seems like there have been some snags. They're still kind of negotiating around some of the trickier things like DACA and some of the big picture items that folks have heard being debated in the news and whether those get included or not. But so what we're hearing now is that to expect the omnibus to be out early next week, which would give them roughly 5 days to get something passed in both the House and the Senate to avoid another shutdown. We've been having conversations with mostly with House staffers, and we've heard that the HUD portion of the THUD bill is finished, but we do not know what the numbers are yet. The one kind of encouraging thing to say is that all of the offices we've talked to, both Republican and Democratic offices, have given us kind of cautious optimism that at least that the funding would be restored to the FY17 number of 55 million, and that there was, some hope that there could be a small increase. We had been pushing for an increase to 60 million. So that's kind of where. One other thing to mention, I mean, the THUD bill is always a really non-controversial bill, but it seems to have hit a snag over. It's a bit complicated, but essentially there's a debate happening around on the transportation side of the bill about funding for tunnels. I think it's for tunnel work, essentially, between New York and New Jersey, with essentially the administration saying that they want the federal government to pay less, while Congress essentially is okay with the federal government paying more. It's kind of an interesting cast of characters because you have Trump as a New Yorker, you have Schumer is a New Yorker, Frelinghuysen is the chair of the Appropriations Committee, is from New Jersey, Northern New Jersey. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic that's apparently kind of thrown a bit of a wrench in the THUD bill. I mean, the administration had threatened to veto an omnibus over it, but it's hard to imagine this being. It's hard to imagine this being an issue that keeps them from getting something passed. But at this point, at least, the administration has made that threat. So that's kind of where we are with 18. It's, we are cautiously hopeful that by, this time next week or by the end of next week that we'll have, well, actually early next week, we should have a sense of what the housing counseling assistance number is. So people can look forward to hear from us next week on that. So that is FY 2018. Simultaneously, because 18 is about 6 months late, FY 2019 is kind of making its way through Congress. Things more or less, well, not wrapped up on the House side, but the kind of early advocacy work that we do wrapped up on the House side. I want to start by thanking everyone first who signed on to our letter, and then I know a number of people on the call reached out individually to their House members and said, please include $65 million for housing counseling assistance when you make your request to the THUD subcommittee. And we heard from some offices that they were including it, so that's obviously very helpful. So yesterday we just concluded. We had so there was a dear colleague letter that we had also circulated to folks to ask you to contact your members to sign on to that. That wrapped up yesterday, and it was really encouraging. So we ended up with 92 members signed on. It had at least some bipartisan support in the form of Congressman Don Young from Alaska, and ended up with 92, which is last year we were at 75. The year before we were at 69. So that's just a really, really solid increase in the number of members who were signing on to that letter. So that's really encouraging. And things are just kicking off now on the Senate side. We just got an email from Senator Casey yesterday saying that their office is opening up there. The same process we just went through in the House. So we'll be submitting our sign-on letter. We'll be asking folks to reach out individually to their senators and ask them to include funding for $65 million for housing counseling in their programmatic requests. And then the last step will be a dear colleague in the Senate, that's Senator Menendez. And that's not the end of the process. Then it's just kind of goes over to the Appropriations Committee, and we start doing our advocacy focuses more on the THUD subcommittee. So I think that's what I've got on federal funding, Bruce, unless you want to add anything there.
No, that was great. Thank you. So, Brian Montgomery. So, we don't have an FHA commissioner yet. Brian Montgomery's gone through the Senate nomination process twice, the Senate committee process, and is waiting for a vote on the floor. Floor time is very precious. One or more senators asked for a hold on his nomination, and that means that the only way that they could relieve the hold is if they took a major chunk. I think it's 30 hours of floor time to move on it. There isn't that kind of time on the floor, given all the other things that the Senate is working on. And so we've been involved in, and other groups as well have been involved with reaching out to senators. Initially on the Democratic side, we think that the hold is from a Democrat, and asking that they release the hold so that it go for a floor vote. And Brian Montgomery is, the controversy is that Brian Montgomery was an FHA commissioner under the second Bush, and was then went to his own firm where he was a lobbyist for the lenders who were doing FHA lending and other kinds of lending, and represented them. So he was a regulator at one time, flipped over to being a lobbyist, or his company was, and he and I think Elizabeth Warren and Sherrod Brown especially said this was the revolving door. We can certainly understand that, but in our world, he's probably the best nominee we're ever likely to get from this administration. So he's very moderate. A number of us have worked with him in the past, and he's FHA is in a lot of trouble, or in some trouble. It's certainly been improving in its performance. But the solutions that we think would come working with Brian Montgomery would be more helpful. He also understands and is very comfortable with housing counseling, and was in place when housing counseling grew a great deal in the 90s, and was a key person in the development of housing counseling during those times. So we can understand why some Democrats will want to vote no on it, but the hold we're arguing should be lifted in order for it to be so they could have a chance to vote no and others vote yes. It's every indication we've got is that if the hold were lifted, that he would have more than enough votes to take office. And a number of key activities with FHA are on hold until there is an FHA commissioner. So that's a key issue for us. And we think what will really happen is that there will be a compromise where they will allow a couple hours of floor time so that the controversial issues can be raised, and then the vote takes place. We've reached out to Senator Brown's office, and I know groups in Ohio have done as well. We're reaching out to Senator Warren's office. We had a call earlier this week that ended up having to be delayed, but we will continue doing that. We actually think that at this point, our best read is that it's important for moderate or any Democrat to call Schumer's office and say they'd like to have the hold lifted, and on the Republican side to call Mitch McConnell's office and ask them to basically work something out with the Democrats so the nomination can come to the floor. And we're reaching out to some Kentucky groups in order to more effectively talk with McConnell's office. And certainly if you're interested in helping with that, please let Matthew know. This is, we think, a very important issue, and the sooner we can get this resolved, the better. But it will take some grassroots pressure from us to be part of it. I mean, the realtors, the Mortgage Bankers Association, a whole range of a lot of industry players would like to see this get resolved as well. I think there's a broad consensus that he's the best candidate. So it's really a question of these very specific retail politics issues. But that's the world we live in. So with that note, let's move on. So we had a terrific meeting in Tampa, Florida. This is part of our series of events that we have done. It's funded by Deutsche Bank. It's part of a settlement that they have with the Department of Justice that required them to put together 3 consumer-facing events every year, and we have the contract to do that. And we are working with a number of the national networks, Unidos US, National Urban League, Home for USA, and National Capacity. We did the initial application together, and we're now doing this with really working to elevate the local groups. We had a big discussion about Chicago last fall, and now we have Tampa in place. So we're very interested in both learning, both having a good event, but also in learning how to more effectively reach especially underserved borrowers and how to make these events really ones that bring people directly to counseling. So we have 2 area experts who are deeply involved in making this happen. So we have Sylvia Alvarez. Many of you know her. She's from Housing and Education Alliance and a longtime housing counseling voice and thought leader in our work. And Ellie Pepper, who is also often on our calls and from Empire Justice Center. Ellie has been tasked with kind of coordinating these around the country. So Sylvia and Ellie, are you with us?
Yes, we are. Thank you, Bruce, for having me on the call.
Great.
It was a pleasure working with you guys on this event. I have to say that.
Good. And so here we are. We are 2 weeks out from it. What are the biggest lessons you've learned that you think other groups should know about putting these kind of events together, and what works? Well,
from my point of view, it really was a collaborative effort. We had a lot of help from all of the counseling agencies, and to pull off an event like this and have it be that successful, everybody has to share in the work, and we did. It was a great collaborative effort, and you could tell in the results. So I don't know if you've mentioned this yet, Bruce. Prior, but we filled up not only the hotel parking lot, but on either side of the hotel, there are two high-rise office buildings, which good thing it was a Saturday because we filled up first the one on the right and then the one on the left. So we did something right. It was an effort. Everyone was out there trying to get, media exposure, and getting this information out. Facebook was phenomenal. I learned a lot from you guys about events and advertising events on Facebook. So much so that I have an appointment tomorrow with Facebook. They're going to show me how to take this to a whole new level. So I'll share with you when I learn more.
Oh, great. That sounds good. We definitely want to know. So Ellie, as a veteran of these events, what's your takeaway? What do you think groups can learn from what we did in Tampa?
Well, hi, everybody, first of all. I will say, with this event, we did a couple of things differently. In Chicago, we did 2 email reminders out to everybody who had registered. But with this event, we kind of raised our game a little bit, and for about the 3 weeks prior to the event, we sent out several emails, just kind of updates about, every time a critical mass of people registered for the event, we would send an email welcoming them. And then also we sent several follow-up emails to everybody, just kind of reminding them of this is what you can expect to find there. And when we brought in a couple of the cities who were going to have their down payment assistance programs, we emailed that out to let people know that those programs were going to be there. And then the final week prior to the event, one of the things that we learned in Chicago, I think, and we talked about it on that webinar, was that the morning of the event, we were trying to kind of catch up with people to remind them and see, and we were making phone calls, but some people were doing texting, and it seemed like that was a better way to reach out to folks. So we engaged with a group text program called Hustle, and that's, just like the song, Do the Hustle. And it's a program that is really quite affordable, and you can have, I had originally reached out to them for up to 500 phone numbers. We ended up with about 220 valid cell phone numbers that we were able to upload into the system. And we were able to do unlimited amount of texting during that last week prior to the event. And I'll tell you, so we sent out an initial 220 texts just saying, hi, this is, and it was from me personally, the way that we did it. So it just said, hi, this is Ellie from Tampa Bay Home Ownership Fair. We have a great event coming up. Do you think that you are going to be able to make it? And I got about just over 100 people who would respond. And then we had, if they responded yes, they were going to make it, then we had a setup text that I could hit enter and respond to them. Great, so excited, see you there. And if they weren't, then we had another one that was another setup text to say, sorry that you can't make it. Do you have any questions? You can still work with a housing counseling agency. And in many cases, I interacted pretty regularly with several people who were pretty disappointed that they weren't going to be able to make it to the event, but that were really interested in hearing more about a housing counseling agency. And so through some texting, got them some information about groups in their region. So that was really beneficial. And there were people who came up to me at the event. I had a name tag on, and people came up to me and said, oh, I texted with you. Thank you so much. I had several people text me the weekend, after the event, for a couple of days after, talking about how great it was and how much they appreciated it. And a couple of people who actually also said, we couldn't make it, but is there going to be another one? And, is there more information? So that was one of the biggest lessons for me, was this kind of individual interaction with folks through the email and through texting. And so I plan to continue to do that in going forward with our events.
Yeah, and I think we were worried that texting would be kind of invasive, but in fact, it seems to be the way that many more people communicate. And I put on the list an article that was actually aimed at realtors, but was an example of how people would prefer to be communicating. And what we talking to a couple people after the Chicago event, they hadn't actually seen the several emails that they should have gotten from us. So that was an eye opener. People, much harder to miss the text. And the fact that you're getting an immediate response from a text of half the people saying, yes, they're coming, is really, really valuable. And I guess the program can also say, identify which ones replied and which ones didn't, so that you can have a different message for those people that didn't reply. And the other thing that was interesting, and we had talked to a social media person at Tides, which is the foundation that actually houses NHRC, and she talked about having this sort of chatty relationship, which I thought, Ellie, you did a really good job at the chatty relationship thing. This was, it kind of had a kind of personal warmth to it, and it and people were seeking Ellie out when she came to the event, and they had talked. That's kind of it is a sort of face-to-face relationship, even though it's through your telephone. It's well worth talking about that. So just to step back a minute. I mean, we had a number of vehicles that we promoted the event with. And so one of them was Facebook. So Ellie or Sylvia, do one of you want to just describe what we did on Facebook, and then we can talk maybe about well, actually, Ellie, why don't you do Facebook, and Sylvia, you can talk about radio and TV, because you really drove
All right, that's fine.
those parts of the conversation.
And we have a couple hustle questions. Can we go through those quickly and then turn it over to Facebook? All right.
Yes.
Ellie, someone just said that they were searching for hustle on Google and they're not finding anything. Can you help people find
So what I'll say is look for hustle texting service, because if you just put in hustle, you get everything but their texting service. I did notice that. So if you were to put in hustle texting service, you'll get more valid information.
Great. And is there any issue around needing the consumer's permission in order to text them? And if so, how do you deal with that with Hustle?
We have a great answer for this, which is we put into the reservation, give us your cell phone, and we will text you a reminder. And so we framed it up as, you were opting in by giving us your cell phone. So I hope that answers.
Right. So we had close to 300 people who registered for the event, and just over 200 valid cell phone numbers. So some of the people just didn't give us a phone number, and some people gave us a number that was not a cell phone. So, that it was clear that we didn't get buy-in by everybody. So.
But I should say that in Chicago, of the people that registered, it was like 20% showed at the meeting, but we were much closer to 50% of the registrations at the Tampa meeting. We had fewer registrations. It went a little, but we had a much higher turnout and a much higher percentage turnout.
Yeah, and I fully believe that has to do with the emailing and the texting. Because I will tell you that several people who got the initial text said, yes, I want to come. Where is it? So they had registered but did not have the address. So anyway, you want me to go ahead and move on to Facebook, or Matthew, is there another question?
Nope, that's all. Thanks.
Okay. So the Facebook, we did an event, a Facebook event similar to what we did with Chicago, and we boosted it. And we encouraged all of the participating housing counseling groups to post in the event. I will say that the biggest play that we got on any posts that went into the event had to do with when an organization posted a success story about one of their homeowners. And Sylvia can talk about the one that she posted, because she posted one from her one of her homeowners, who then became a housing counselor, which is kind of an interesting story, but she also had a really positive story to tell. That got a lot of play, that video did. And then another organization also posted a success story that also got quite a bit of when I say quite a bit of play, a lot of people liked it and interacted with it and made comments and so on. So we also this time tried to do Facebook ads, which are a little different than boosting a post or an event. And the ad is a little bit different. It really encourages people to click onto a link and click into the ad itself. I am on a serious learning curve on how to make ads work in the best possible way. So that is something that we'll be continuing to work on. And we had a little bit of difficulty around trying to really post some Spanish language posts, and I'll let Sylvia talk about that. But we had no problem. We had no problem posting our English language flyer with English language, references, and then Sylvia posted it in Spanish with Spanish references, and we had the hardest time. And I'll let you talk about that, Sylvia.
Yeah, so I'll get to that, but well, I'll go ahead and discuss that now. When we were boosting or posting the flyers or anything to do in the Spanish language, it kept getting denied, and it would not allow us to run the ad or boost the post. Which the response that we got is that you're targeting a specific demographic, and that's not allowed, or something to that effect. And you do have a chance to appeal it, and I did. 3 different times they did this, and 3 different times I appealed it, saying that, how else are we supposed to get this information into the Hispanic community? And we're doing this in English, but you're not permitting this. For the Spanish population, I really felt, I really was upset with Facebook about that because, how else did they expect us to get the information out? If we put a Spanish ad and don't say to send it to Spanish people, then it's, we're doing it for nothing. So, in fact, in one of my appeals, about the 3rd time that I appealed it, I even said, does Mark have any idea what you're doing? Because they were leaving out a segment of the population that really needed to be there and to get this information. So that being said, I believe you guys are doing something to try to correct that for future events, and I hope that you can get that done. But I have to say there was quite a bit of media, meaning radio and television, which I think really helped. And one of the things that I think, going forward when you do other events, if anyone has a good relationship with media, then you need to capitalize on that. Anytime we do an event, there's certain go-to places that we run our advertising, and one of them is a faith-based radio show. It's very, very Spanish, by the way, and you really, really get a lot for your money when you advertise on either Spanish radio or TV. It costs much, much less, and to me, it really concentrates on and focuses on a segment of the population. So anyway, we did the Genesis radio show, which is like I said, a faith-based, and they actually added in some a live interview the day before, on the Friday before the event, and we were able to get a whole lot of traction on that. And then the morning of the event started at 10, but at 9:30 I did another interview from the event, and people were already there, so that helped to drive it. And then again, we did another interview, I believe, at 11, so there was still time for people to get there. And that, I believe, we had a lot of good results, because I know people were coming up to our table and saying that they had heard it on Genesis. The other thing that we did, and this was absolutely no cost, is I was on a local real estate show. It's very popular. It's run by one of the top RE/MAX offices in the country, and they asked, can you come on there and tell everybody about it? So I did. We also did ABC TV. We did the Morning Blend, which is a show that you actually, there is a fee to be on it, but it's not expensive at all. And you get about 10 minutes of airtime, and you have a chance to promote your event or your project or whatever. Then we had a free interview on a show that's called Positively Tampa Bay, and that one's a much shorter, but it's free, so that's why. And that's a show that is very, very popular. Both of these shows, both of these ABC television programs, are popular, and we've used them many, many times when we've had to trying to promote a program or an event that's coming up. And then the last thing that we did was we added Telemundo the week before. And again, I would think, and I'm assuming that Ellie and Bruce, you can confirm this, we got a lot of bang for our buck there as well, and they really did a beautiful commercial. So, and again, to speak to what Ellie had said earlier, as far as the success story, we actually had 2 of them on there, and then we also had the success story, the people who the stories were about at our table, and we were sending out emails to those who had liked it about, come to the table and you can meet with the success story. So I think that also helped a lot. But I wanted to give a shout out to some of the people on this end here that really, really did a lot to help this become a huge success. And of course, Philip Tagliarini, Anthony Jones, Deborah Scanlon, Belize Parks, they really, really did a lot to make sure that everything was taken care of. And I wanted to give them a shout out and to thank them, because they did a lot to make this event a huge, huge success. Much more than I had dreamed of. 3 parking lots? Never have we done that. So I want to know when you're all coming back.
So that's the challenge now. All the other events.
I know that.
And just a quick shout out: the photograph that you see on your screen, that was taken by Phil Tagliarini. Very helpful.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Can I just jump in with a couple of, I think, quick
we only have a couple minutes here. I'm going to need to move on, but yeah, let's get them in.
Just very quickly, just a comment. Someone just pointed out that Facebook keeps getting fair housing wrong, and applauds you for challenging them on this. Someone else said appeals don't work, going back to the Spanish language issue with the Spanish language ads. They said their experience is you need to certify that you comply with anti-discrimination laws, which is a checkoff box hidden within the administration section of our Facebook account. So maybe we will follow up on that.
I will comment that I found that and did that, and it did not solve the problem.
Okay.
So just to say.
But to underline this, if any of you have had problems with this, please send us the documentation and send us, if you can pull up, write a sentence or 2, email to me about this and to Ellie. And if you still have the screenshot of what they said, we're very interested in that. We're talking to senior people at Facebook today, and the more that this is, we can identify this as not just a freak event, that would be very, very helpful right now.
So I'll say one final thing. For the people who registered, that 60% of them heard about the program from Facebook. For the people who didn't pre-register and showed up, the highest percentage of where they heard it from was television.
Interesting. And do you remember what percentage was TV?
I think that it was 40%. And then it was a smattering among all of the other venues that we used.
So Facebook also showed up on the list, but it was much, much lower.
Much lower, yeah.
Yeah, no, so valuable tools. Certainly anything anybody else is learning about how to use Facebook, we will continue to try to learn how to use this more effectively. But we did ads and we did boosts, but we found that also posting itself was just as valuable, and posting with video, posting with people's stories, those seem to be very high engagement. And again, the more that there's chatter, people commenting, and all the organizations jumping in and co-sponsoring the page, all those things kind of help broaden the circle of things. The advantage to ads and boosting is that you're reaching people who aren't in your circle, and there's some demographics you can use to choose some of them. Obviously, choosing Spanish-speaking households has not worked well for us, but we'll try to figure out how to fix that with Facebook. So congratulations to all the Tampa groups. It was really a terrific event. I know they put a lot of work into it. So let's quickly jump over to our next major topic. And this is a client management system that called CRM that James Ruddock and Sean Washington are going to talk about from Northwest Side Housing Center. We've had James on in the past, but this is a system that could be widely used by groups. So James, are you with us? And Sean?
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm on the phone, not the computer this time, so I wanted to make sure that the audio came through. And Sean is here as well.
Excellent.
I'm on the line.
Okay.
So we'll try and be brief. I know that time is of the essence here today, and so thanks Bruce and Matthew for having Sean and I on. We have a presentation, and I see that the slides are starting to run, and so we found a challenge in using HCO and Counselor Max in terms of tracking our data for our organization. And the Northwest Side Housing Center is a HUD-certified housing counseling agency, and we receive funding from HUD, and we were using Counselor Max to document that, but we also received CDBG funds from the City of Chicago, funds from IDA, the Illinois Housing Development Authority, and the data points that those grantors were requiring were not present in Counselor Max, and we didn't see the ability to customize the solution in the way that we needed it. So in 2013, Sean and myself and some of our colleagues kind of began on a journey looking to how we can address that. And so you can go to the next slide, and you can go to the next slide, sorry. So that's really how it started, was through a conversation of us in 2013, realizing that we had a need. And so the Northwest Side Housing Center participated in a program at the University of Chicago in 2015. And one of the funders of that program was Microsoft. So when they came to the program, we pulled them aside and asked Microsoft, how can we better track and collect data? Because they were really, their presentation was on data visualization and heat mapping and creating really complex data metrics. And I said, I can't even tell you, the data points that our funders are requesting. How can I create a heat map of where clients came from, overlaid with the congressional district and all these other stats? So I said, I thought their presentation was actually a little off. And so to their credit, in 2016, they really took a deep dive with us, and we had a really documented need, a clear ask. We had a proposal for them to help us build an overlay for our reporting. So what we initially had asked them was to create an overlay that would collect data that we had and then push out to the different reporters. And as a bit of background, we tried from 2013 to 2015 to try and do that with other funders, other partners, and it didn't work. So we had enlisted Microsoft as problem solvers to see if they could do that for us. You can go to the next slide. To their credit, they really did step up to the plate. So we really came up with a problem statement, which was that we have multiple data sources operating, and each of them were different and had different reporting requirements. And we really were entering the same client multiple times in multiple different systems. So in some cases, we had a quadruple data entry of one client. And I'm sure agencies that are on the call know this all too well, that you're seeing hundreds, maybe thousands of clients, and you're entering data 4 times. Really adds up, and it takes away time from your counselors or forces you to use resources on additional staff. So that was our statement that we presented to Microsoft. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that the goal was not just to build this overlay, but Microsoft came back and said that they would build us a new CRM. So they built a Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So Dynamics is a Microsoft product that if you have Office 365, Dynamics is already existent in your Microsoft suite. If you have the traditional Microsoft Office where you download it from the disk, Dynamics is a Microsoft add-on that's available like PowerPoint or Excel. And we had it, and I had no idea what it was. I never used it. But Microsoft used that template because it's a Microsoft product, and basically built us a client management system on that platform. They interviewed all of our staff, they interviewed clients, they interviewed some of our funders to really see what we needed from the system and the database. So they spent a lot of time up front kind of understanding what the system needed to be, what it didn't need to be, and what they wanted. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see some of the data issues that we had. I won't go into all of these, but you see kind of all the different moving pieces that Microsoft had found in their interviews. This all came from them, actually. We didn't give this to them. They did that. They found this out through their discovery phase of interviewing staff and clients. If you move to the next slide. So this is how the process worked. We had Microsoft throughout the world has an initiative called 1 Week, and it's 1 week every year where the entire Microsoft team worldwide volunteers for that week. So their staff report to work, they get paid, but they work on volunteer projects. So we were one of those projects, and that project included the surveying of everyone and the initial creation of the CRM, and they did that in 2016. They spent a couple other weeks after that refining the system pro bono. It wasn't part of 1 week, but we had, out of the kindness of their hearts, asked them to kind of finish the system since they were working on it, but it hadn't quite been finished, if they could really kind of walk it through the process. And they did that in the fall of 2016. What we realized through that process that we didn't expect was, unfortunately, the challenge of getting the database HUD certified. So what we realized is Microsoft didn't do that. And so we needed to find a third party that could help make sure that this database speaks with and integrates with HUD, because the database would only be good if HUD, if it could, send a 9902, communicate with HUD, and be our organization's database for HUD. So in 2017, we, through Microsoft, found a third party that's a Microsoft certified third party called OG Solutions, and they worked with Sean throughout 2017 to make sure that the database was HUD compliant and HUD certified. It was officially approved by HUD at the end of December 2017 as a HUD certified database. So our organization tested it throughout 2017, and we officially January 1st switched over from CounselorMax, which was our CRM, our CMS, to CRM Dynamics, which we're calling ARM 365, in January of 2018. So we now would like to make this available to other agencies that are having similar challenges or issues. We've also now heard that HCO will be sunsetting, CounselorMax will be sunsetting. We started this process before that, but this could be a solution for organizations that are not going to have HCO or CounselorMax or need additional reporting. And so we're available to answer questions. I'm going to ask Sean to kind of talk about the process, but very quickly, we do have some screenshots just to show you different kind of static screenshots of the database. And so I'm going to turn it over to Sean. And Sean, if you just want to kind of explain on the screenshots very briefly what they are, then we'll end with kind of the next steps in terms of the process. So if you want to go to the next slide to kick us off.
Thanks, Dave.
And Sean, yeah.
So what you see now is kind of like the day in the life of a counselor. Dashboards are customizable. So when a homeowner or when a counselor logs in, they can see homeowners based on the county, homeowners based on the program, homeowners based on program type. So really the counselor dashboard is kind of up to the counselor itself. I prefer using, a view that I can see as most information as possible. And I think what makes this what's so cool is that everything that you see on the screen is actually exportable to a static Microsoft Excel sheet. So if there's a review at the last minute that wants to know our activity for the last 30 days, like what kind of clients we've seen, what kind of programs we've generated, I'd really just go ahead and export kind of this section over here so that I'd have it all in an Excel sheet. And from there, it's just a matter of kind of filtering and sorting through what that particular funder, grantor, or report calls for. So that's the easy way, short way to explain kind of what the counselor can do as far as getting reports to the program manager and things like that based on their work.
You can go to the next slide.
So I think what the frustration that I got from a lot of our counselors was that in HCO and Counselor Max, there was a lot of clicking to get to different points of a homeowner's case, whether it be their mortgage information or their actual demographic data was in several different places. So what we tried to do was design program case records that limited the clicks for data entry so that you don't have to bounce around from page to page to page. So what you see here on the screen is kind of what an actual program case looks like. And you can't scroll down the screen, but everything that you would need to know about this particular homeowner, and James has cleverly covered up the homeowner's information, but you can see the Financial Coaching 101 is the program, financial is the coaching type, there's the staff, the contact is Kevin Hart. But as you scroll down, you can see more information about this particular client, their case, what they're doing, and everything like that. And I think that was one of the biggest frustrations, was that, you know, just clicking from page to page to page and the repetitiveness of entering data kind of saves us about, I'd say, 30 minutes per file. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. And so there's a way to distinguish. There was never a way to distinguish in Counselor Max, and I don't want to keep throwing Counselor Max under the bus, but either you had a client and you just had a client, which was a case. In CRM, there's a very distinct difference between a client record and a program case. So a client record tells you everything about that client. Again, household size, demographics, income, where they work, all that kind of stuff. The program case also includes this information, but you don't have to re-enter it when you create a program case. When you create a client, you basically are stamping the name, address, phone number, gender, income to that particular client. So when you then click new up here, or to start a new program case, half of the information that you would enter into that program case is already there, which is, you know, where they live at, are they disabled, what's their income like, what does their household look like, all the demographic information stays. And if I had the ability to scroll down the screen, it's very simple, from just looking at this client record to hitting a plus sign and you're, boom, starting a new program record for Kevin Hart. And the thing that's so neat about CRM is that you can have multiple cases open at a time. I believe in HCO and Counselor Max, if you were running a foreclosure case, you also could not have a financial coaching case open, or vice versa. You cannot be doing a financial coaching and rental case. Well, with CRM, you can have multiple cases open at the same time by multiple counselors. So a lot of our counselors, what we've been learning to do as we get more familiar with the system, is that we share clients. And that's one of the buttons that will be up here on dashboards in regards to clients and program records. So it allows our financial coach who's working long-term, somebody to buy their first house, also to share that particular long-term client with our pre-purchase first-time home buying coach. So once they've met their financial coaching goals, then that client is then shared with the first-time home buying coach. So it kind of lends itself to a better connection of services, is what I would say. You want to go ahead and go to the next slide for me? And this is kind of a screenshot from Counselor Max here. Oh, well, no, it's not Counselor Max. Well, this is kind of what it looks like as you enter in a new program case. So if you would have been able to scroll down the screen, you would have seen this little box where it says cases. And it's just as easy as clicking a plus sign and kind of getting started from right there. And it'll give you all the information that you pretty much already need to know about the homeowner. All you're entering in is the case type, the interest rate, the monthly payment, the details about the case. So I think the thing that I found to be really, really unique is that a lot of times, a lot of funders will ask for information that would maybe program related, and they'll also combine that with maybe client related. And now I have a way to kind of mesh the two of them, where I'm matching female head of household with financial coaching clients, which is kind of hard to do with some of the other databases that I've used in the past, but now getting a little bit more creative with the kind of customizable reports we can do based on the type of programs, program types, and things like that. All right, you can move to the next one. All right, so this is kind of what my dashboard looks like. It's a little bit more robust of information. Sometimes I want to see who is the counselor who created the case, the homeowner's name, the date that it was created, more of a broad overview of what the counselors have been doing as opposed to the counselors. They may look at their case types, whereas I may look at, how many cases are created at a given time or a given month. So this is just another sample dashboard that program directors might be using. And you can move on to the next one. All right. And so also, I think I should back up a little bit. CRM Dynamics was started off as a sales kind of database. And so what we did with OG Solutions at Microsoft was kind of mapped it into a housing database. But as you can see, anything that's up on the screen from the left side, it can also be translated into charts, graphs, visual aids, basically. And all of these are also exportable as well. So I could really quickly put together some kind of demographic of, who we're seeing in rental and, what their race is or what that particular household may look like. So I can match up the x-axis from the y-axis based on program and program type, based on city and state, based on income. So there's a variety of different graphs and charts that you can put together. And it's really helpful for people who aren't like really big on numbers and data. If you could just see, the chart on the screen, it's very visual for you. So it makes it kind of easy for even those who are not as tech friendly to still get the idea of what's going on in the day-to-day work. All right, you can move on. All right, and so this actual program case report screenshot we got here, this is an actual report that we had to put together for an actual funder. So this is a template that I just kind of dropped together based on whether it was a CDBG funder or whether it was a state funder, and I went through their actual template that they gave me and created this view. And so every time I go into my program case report, I'm constantly getting updates of that report. Now, of course, this may show 200, 300 clients from out the entire year. But again, I just want to export all of this stuff and kind of filter it for the last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever the report may call for, save it as an Excel sheet, attach it, and send it on over. So it makes it really, really simple for getting large scale reporting done. I would say that it's very unique to each funder. All right, you can move on. All right, and workshops. There's a lot of workshops going on as far as first-time home buying or rental with us. So workshops are also very quickly created, just like a program case. It's as simple as clicking a button. Once the workshop is created, those clients that you created are maybe 2 clicks and you can enroll them into the workshop. And if you notice over to the right side of the screen, it tracks, did the client attend the workshop? Did they get their certificate, yes or no? And it asks you some really basic information, so you can really quickly get an idea of how many people got certificates in the last 60 days, 90 days. Again, you would just go ahead and pull up that dashboard, export it all, filter it for what you're looking for, and then you have an idea of what you've done in the last 60, 90 days. All right, we can move on. All right, and this looks like a screenshot here of getting a actual financial education class created. So Kevin Hart was the client. As soon as we scroll down the screen, you can see where workshop date, contact name, attendance status. It's as easy as clicking that little box. Once you do that, it's pretty much the workshop is created, and enrolling him is just a matter of, like I say, a couple of clicks. And it's really cool there because the workshops, we have the way we set it up that once a homeowner calls our agency and says that they are interested in RSVPing for a class on Saturday, CRM lets us RSVP ahead of time. So I can basically predate workshops for later on in the future for April, May, June, July. And as clients of ours call in, we can create the client and sign them up for that workshop. So we're booking people for April's workshops today and filling them up based on CRM, not our basic paper sign-up sheet or our Excel sheet. And then at the end of the day, when I want to get this workshop rostered, and yeah, the first-time home buying coach will probably come into CRM, print out that workshop roster, and she'll bring it with her to the class. And then that's how she'll figure out, you know, did she have 100% attendance based on who RSVP'd and everything like that. So it's a lot of different ways to use the data. But again, it's just what your agency needs, really. You can move on to the next slide. All right. I think I'll open it up. I don't know how much time I saved this. I tried to move quickly and be as thorough as I could. But yeah, feel free to shoot me or James any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
All right. Does this connect to or have a scheduling system?
Good question. It does integrate with Microsoft Office. So if you use Outlook, you can send an email or schedule an appointment directly through the system, and it does integrate with Outlook.
Great.
Yeah, and it works with email. Oh yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we don't have the live database up, but if a homeowner does type in their email, it is a live hyperlink. So then you would just double click their email, and automatically your Outlook would open up a fresh email template to that homeowner.
Yeah,
great.
Exactly.
And I'll just let folks know, we have questions we're not going to be able to get to, but we will send those over to and you know, try to get answers back to folks if we're able to do that. A lot of positive feedback. Someone asked, my developer friends tell me that all software atrophies over time. Is anyone, for example, Microsoft, tending to problems as they arise?
Yeah, that's a great question, and whoever's friend said that is a smart person, because it's true. So OG Solutions has a contract that they're providing monthly updates to us in case HUD updates anything, Microsoft updates anything, and so it is a cost. It's a nominal cost. It's a couple $100 for the year, which is really doable and very cost effective, but is giving us that protection so we don't have to, Sean or I don't have to kind of log in and monitor the back end of it.
Great. One comment from Jennifer Cosentini. This looks amazing and she can't wait to use it with lots of exclamations. And just
Thanks,
one more
Jennifer.
question and we'll send the rest over to you guys and hopefully we can try to get some answers we can circulate. Could you talk about how difficult it was to migrate data from your existing CMS over?
Good question. Sean, do you want to take that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, it was, I don't think that there was like a mass migration. It was more or less the old-fashioned way of counselors going in, creating cases and backdating them. But we tried to start 2017 kind of from scratch, so there wasn't really a huge data migration. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, and maybe just to further clarify, any open case as of 12/31/17, the counselors, and we had one data entry staff entered in. Any case that was closed in 17, we did not migrate. So we still have access to Counselor Max, and we still, it's free, so it's still available. So we didn't migrate everyone else. OG Solutions could have done that, and that would have been a couple $1,000s, which probably for larger agencies is still cost effective and probably makes sense. For us, we don't see that many clients that it was easier enough to just kind of give everyone 20 clients to double enter, and we did it on a day and we knocked it out.
Great. I think, Bruce, you're muted.
And just as a quick question, do you pull a credit report and do you do like household budget? Is that part of this component or not?
Yeah, we do both, and the household budget is integrated in. We used Credco, which I know integrated directly with Counselor Max. It is not integrated yet. We do use TransUnion, and there is a box that says, you know, is the credit report pulled and is it on file, and we check that, and then we keep the paper copy in the file. It's not, and you can upload it to the file, but you would have to download it from TransUnion and upload it back, and so we're working on that integration. It's not there yet, but it does have the capability to.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. We'll ship the rest to you. I'm going to just do a very quick pause here for a second. I have to do it. We have a technological switchover. Don't everybody go anywhere. We got a couple more things we want to do before the call is over. Hang on. Hello, all right, so we're back again. And let's see, so, okay. Okay, thanks. All right, thank you, Matthew. So we are, I'm going to move on quickly just on CoreLogic Credco. I wanted to spend a few minutes on this, but I think what we're going to do instead is to make this easier. We are going to do 2 sessions with Tammy Foster, who was on our previous call. We're going to have her come in, and we're going to do a full-fledged call specifically just around Credco and compliance issues. And how to make applications. So if you're not a user currently, how you qualify. And that, wait a minute, and that will work on, that will be on the 29th at our usual time. And then on the regular leaders call on April 5th, we'll have the Credco credit products and as part of the conversation, and she'll talk about some of the extra features that come with this, and that'll be open to everybody, and will hopefully address some questions. The most common question I'm getting is if you're currently a Credco user, and can you switch over to this pricing? And absolutely you can as soon as you're caught up with your membership dues. That's our easiest situation, and I just really notify her as soon as people become either join or renew their membership dues. So that's been quite easy and gone smoothly. We did the first 29 last Friday, and I saw the emails went out early this week on those, and so they're getting the pricing as soon as you get that email. And I'm sending a list of the most recent groups that just joined or renewed. I'll send that later today or tomorrow morning. So we'll get those rolling, and we'll do these on a rolling basis. So that's all gone very smoothly so far, and so far no big hiccups. One organization was identified differently in their system than how we identified them. That's hopefully is getting cleared up, and we are going to be able to flip them over. So that's all gone really well. So I'm very pleased with all this, and appreciate all the patience people have shown. But this has been a terrific thing. Oh, the one other thing that people have mentioned is, I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I think it's what it says on the pricing sheet is $13.72 for the tri-merged credit report. What that is in fact there's a 30-cent per bureau charge, so 90 cents extra that gets added, and that's how we get to the $14.62. The pricing is on that schedule, and there's also add-on charges if you're using Counselor Max or if you're using Office RX, and those are both ones you're paying currently. This is nothing new. All of those charges are in your existing pricing, and they will be with this one, regardless of what provider you use. I think these are all standard. So that's all good. It's moving pretty smoothly, and let me see. There we go. Okay, so so quickly, it's we've had a great year. A whole bunch of new groups have joined. We really appreciate the support. We hope you're joining because you want to support this advocacy work. We're doing a deep dive around a lot of work around trying to improve the funding environment for housing counseling, both among lenders and on the government side. Would love your experience as well if you've got some extra ideas that we can promote. We do the Innovations in Housing Counseling series, and we will have another one on April 5th on this. We'll talk about in a minute. So a lot going on in our world, the events, trying to figure out how to increase the visibility of housing counseling, and certainly it doesn't hurt to have the discount on the credit reports. So, but really value that as many groups have joined, and we know that budgets are tight, but we've been growing. I was a little worried that we would see a reflection of the contraction in the industry, but in fact, you guys have held tight, and we deeply appreciate that. So the link to the how to get to our membership application, just go, you'll see it on the front page, close to the upper right-hand corner. You'll see the link link to get to the membership information. And or you can email me, and I'd be happy to send it to you, which makes me happy, improves my day. And then lastly, our next call, we'll have a call the Thursday before around how to make application under Credco, and we'll advertise that on the list. We just nailed it down this morning. And then Thursday, April 5th, we will have Ralphine Caldwell from Charlotte, a NeighborWorks organization there that's doing some terrific work where they're doing the down payment assistance programs for the city of Charlotte. And it fits into our innovations in housing counseling about doing programs that are within our mission, that are outside of what we traditionally think of as housing counseling, and generate new income. This is a long-term relationship. She will talk about what the program is, but also how they got there, which, this is a big, ambitious piece, but if you have administrative capacity, this is an opportunity that some cities have found really works, and they're I think one of the leading administrators on this in the country. So we'll have that as part of our call on Thursday, April 5th. So with that note, thanks all for your good work and support. We really appreciate it, and we'll be talking soon. Thanks.